Hello gardeners! We've made it to July, which means we're deep into the summer growing season. The garden is full and productive right now, but if you're like me, you're also battling heat, bugs, and planning ahead for fall. So in today's video, I'm sharing 10 garden task tips and reminders to help you stay on track this month. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name is Jara. I've been gardening all of my life, and I'm a professional seed and plant nursery. I love to share my knowledge and teach others how to garden and grow food, so you've come to the right place if you want to improve your gardening skills. All right, let's get started. First up, let's talk about chewing worms. July is prime time for caterpillars like armyworms, cabbage loopers, and tomato hornworms to show up and start munching on your crops. If you notice leaves that look like they've been chewed up or shredded overnight, or you see little dark droppings on your leaves, those are sure signs that you have a worm problem. My favorite organic treatment for these soft-bodied chewing insects is BT or spinosad. These treatments are easy to apply, super effective, and safe to use if you spray in the evening after all the pollinators have gone for the day. If you're seeing damage, don't wait. Treat it early before the worms multiply, which will require more applications of treatments to knock them down. And I keep saying worms, but technically they're the caterpillar stage of various moths and different butterflies. Moving along, let's talk about summer squash, which is mostly zucchini, patty pan squash, and yellow squash. July is when many of us are harvesting more squash than what we can eat and give away. Therefore, find ways to preserve the harvest. One of my favorite ways to preserve squash is by dehydrating it. I use a food chopper to dice it into small pieces and load it into my food dehydrator. Dehydrated squash is a great pantry staple for soups, stir fries, or casseroles in the winter. You can also freeze shredded squash in portioned bags so it's easier to add into recipes. If you have any favorite or unique ways to preserve squash, let me know in the comments. July is the middle of summer, so you're probably not thinking about starting seeds for fall yet, but July is when a lot of us need to start sowing seeds indoors to grow transplants. Therefore, it is important that you start planning your fall garden. Think about what crops you want to eat in the cooler months, maybe leafy greens, broccoli, cabbage, or root vegetables. Start making a list and go ahead and order your seeds now. Some of these crops need to be started indoors about 2 or 3 months in advance. Right now, I am sowing seeds indoors for my fall tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and short day onions. I like to plan or map out my fall garden, so I make sure I grow enough plants to fill it all up. And if you're not sure how many plants you should grow per person in your household, I do have a list on my website that goes through each crop and says how many plants you will need per person. And I also have a list of square foot gardening guidelines so you know how many plants can fit into 1 square foot. That way you can count how many plants you need to start from seed indoors. I will link all of those lists below in the description. Speaking of fall seed starting, now's a great time to check your seed sowing supplies and make sure you have what you need at home. Order any seeds or plants that you want to grow during the fall season. Check your seed trays, mix up a batch of seed starting soil, clear an area in your house to sow the seeds indoors. I always recommend starting seeds indoors because it protects your seedlings from catching all sorts of plant diseases or getting a pest infestation if they're grown outdoors. A simple option is to set up a mini greenhouse in some unused corner of your house and just zip tie some lights to it. Preferably grow lights if you can. Getting official grow lights was probably the #1 thing that drastically improved my seed starting game. Grow lights have a wider range of light color and provide an intense light source, which drastically improves seedling growth. I also suggest using heat mats for any warm season crops like the peppers and tomatoes because it helps speed up germination and growth. A lot of people are asking me when I start sowing seeds for my fall transplants. The answer to that is now, in July. I sow my fall transplants in waves over the next few months, so it's not overwhelming. Right now in July, I'm sowing seeds indoors for my fall tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, and short day onions. And next month in August, I will sow all of my brassicas indoors. This works great if you're gardening in a hot climate with mild winters. If you're a cold climate gardener, then you're not going to be sowing seeds for warm season crops right now. Instead, you need to be sowing cool season crops like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and leeks, just to name a few. Another great task to add to your July garden to-do list is soil testing. Before you start amending beds for fall planting, take a moment to test your soil with a home test kit or send a sample to your local county extension office. This will help you figure out exactly what nutrients your soil is missing or has too much of, so you're not guessing. It's a simple step that can make a big difference in your garden's overall health and productivity. Then once you know what nutrients your soil needs, you need to start the process of amending the soil. I like to start amending soils in July to give plenty of time for the amendments and nutrients to start breaking down and become bioavailable by the time I start planting my fall garden, probably around September. You can add things like compost, worm castings, azomite for minerals, crab meal to increase calcium and attract beneficial nematodes, or just some fertilizer. If you're planning on growing heavy feeders like cabbage, tomatoes, or broccoli during the fall, getting your soil enriched now will give those plants a huge boost. July is when squash bugs are are most active in the garden and their populations start to peak. A few of them is not a big deal, but in large numbers, they literally suck the life out of your plants, transfer diseases, and cause serious damage. Squash bugs have a hard shell which protects them from spray types of treatment, so manual removal is the best option to keep them under control. Their preferred food is anything in the cucurbit family, so pay extra attention to your cucumbers, melons, and squash crops. I like to start by watering my cucurbit plants at the base because the water will make the squash bugs kind of scatter up, and that makes them easy to spot. Then I just hand pick them off the plants and drop them into a bucket of soapy water or just squish them. I also check the leaves of all my cucurbits every day to remove clusters of squash bug eggs, which is very effective at preventing them from hatching new babies, further increasing their numbers. These are the two best methods for controlling squash bugs, but I have a whole video on squash bug management that I'll link below in the description if you want more ideas. In July, especially during rainy season, keep a close eye out for blossom end rot. This looks like a dark sunken spot at the bottom of fruits, more common on tomatoes, peppers, and squash. The cause is usually not a lack of calcium in the soil because most soils have plenty of calcium, but instead it's the plant's inability to uptake calcium from the soil into their roots because of inconsistent soil moisture. If the soil is too dry or too wet, it blocks the transfer of calcium into the plants. I start to notice lots of blossom end rot during the summer as the soils swing from being very dry due to all of the heat or soaking wet because of all the monsoon rains I get here in Florida. And once the fruit gets blossom end rot, there is no cure. It is best to just pull the affected fruits off the plant so the plant can focus its energy on producing new fruits. The best prevention is consistent moisture and healthy soil. Try not to let your garden dry out completely between waterings, and consider adding a calcium supplement or crushed eggshells to your soil if you've dealt with this issue before. Also, mulch heavily to stabilize swings in soil moisture levels. My last garden task is to solarize the soil if that is something you decide to do. Take advantage of the intense heat during the month of July to solarize the soil effectively. If you feel like you've had a very high incidence of plant diseases, solarization heats up the soil and can kill a lot of the pathogens that cause those same diseases. I have definitely noticed a decrease in tomato blight after solarizing my soil. To solarize, get some black or white frosted, not clear sheets of plastic that are at least 6 millimeters in thickness. If it is thinner than that, the plastic will crumble into a ton of tiny pieces all over the place. Not good. Or you can get a very big silage tarp. Water the area well so the soil is saturated before securing the solarization plastic over the area. The soil moisture helps to heat everything up even more. Leave the solarization plastic in place for 6 to 8 weeks. By then, all the grass and weeds beneath it should have died back. This is an amazing way to prep growing spaces for fall crops, especially if you've struggled with disease in the past. So that wraps up my top 10 garden task tips and reminders for July, all focused on preparing for the fall gardening season that is just around the corner. I hope these garden tasks will help keep you on track this month. If you found this video helpful, please give it a big thumbs up. That helps out my channel more than you know. And don't forget to subscribe for more monthly gardening tips. And please let me know in the comments what you're doing this month to prepare for fall gardening. Happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next video.